Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a very nice run ahead in the Open Great League with a newly built Shadow Pokemon to help me cross back over Legend rank and get very close to 3100 ELO. And that Pokemon is a Great League Shadow Feraligatr. I only had one Shadow Feraligatr saved from way back when it was first released, and that was for Ultra League. But since it came back into Rocket Grunts, I was finally able to get a Great League one, and this thing is absurd. I paired it up with a Trailblaze Greedent and a Lurantis and had some very positive sets. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And we pick up a tough lead in the first match, sending Shadow Feraligatr into Lickitung. Even though this is a lost matchup, I have a massive pacing advantage with the Feraligatr. I get to my moves way before they get to theirs. So I can fire off the Hydro, deal just under half their HP, save switch into the Greedent. I'm unable to get the catch, but my opponent is going to switch out and they send in a Shadow Poliwrath. And this is where Trailblaze can be quite nice. I mainly have Trailblaze on the Greedent so that way I can consistently beat Lantern, but in this instance, it's very nice versus the Poliwrath. I correctly shield the Scald, and even with the debuff, I get to double up on Body Slams. They now have no reason to shield, because they know if they shield once, they're going to have to shield twice. So they're just going to take their shield advantage, and they have their own Shadow Feraligatr in the back. I build up to the Trailblaze, bait with the Body Slam, get the shield from my opponent, and I'm actually looking to switch out. I'm looking to send in my own Feraligatr. I don't want to give up a farm down there. I would rather bring in my own Feraligatr. They fire off the Hydro, and I am able to make it to the Crunch. This is going to do a ton of damage. The Crunch does get shielded, and my opponent is going to commit the farm down. But now I have Lurantis in a position where my opponent has no shields, and I have a lot of super effective charge moves. They're going to fire off the move just before I am able to get to the Leaf Blade, so I will commit the shield. It is the Hydro bait. In comes Lickitung, and energy management on Lurantis will be very important here, as they do have a lot of energy. Body Slam will connect. They make Body Slam number 2. This will not knock out, but it will get me very low. I have to make a Superpower plus a Leaf Blade, and I get there, and that means this game is over, as Superpower is going to knock out the Lickitung, and we have the Leaf Blade stored on Lurantis. Lurantis with 1 HP, refusing to quit, knocking out Lickitung and Feraligatr, and taking the win. Picking up a very positive lead in the next match, Shadow Feraligatr into Shadow Alolan Sandslash. They are running Shadow Claw, which does mean this is a pretty okay matchup for them in terms of the fact that, I mean, they're always going to lose charge attack priority, but they can at least output a lot of fast move pressure. They're probably going to try and catch out of this matchup at some point, so I have to watch for that. So I am going to overfarm by 1, and they still get the catch onto Altaria. This is a situation where having Ice Beam would be very nice on the Feraligatr, but even though I don't have that, my opponent doesn't know that. So I'm going to overfarm 1 past the Crunch. This is an Ice Beam if I had it, and the bluff works. They commit the shield, and now I can send in Greedent, and Greedent will be able to absorb energy. Very okay with no shielding everything here. They go for the Sky Attack, and they actually added a new animation for Sky Attack. That looks very, very cool. I will give Niantic credit on that. That animation looks sick, and I've seen a couple others for some other charge attacks as well. I'm going to farm up, fire off the Body Slam. They've already taken some damage, like the Shadow Claws added up. That's enough to knock out. So the damage that I was able to get from the Feraligatr in that matchup ending up being very, very helpful. Drill Run will pick up the KO. I can send in Lurantis, and we get the catch. Oh my goodness, we get the catch onto the Feraligatr. Back in comes Lurantis. They're low enough that I should be able to knock out with the resisted Leaf Blade here, as they only single resist this, so it will KO. In the back, it's Lantern, and Lurantis is just absolutely feasting, making it to the back-to-back Leaf Blades. Lurantis put in a surprising amount of work. I did specifically pick Lurantis because it's a grass type that also has play into stuff like Guzzlord that would completely shut down my Feraligatr's current moveset. We see a tough lead in the next match, leading the Shadow Feraligatr into the Mantine. Looking it up after the fact, it looks like I do win the 1 straight Hydro Cannon, so I could have done that, but at the time, I didn't know the matchup, so I just decided to go for a Crunch. I do get the defense drop, which is very, very nice, but my opponent will make 2 Aerial Aces before I'm able to make a move. So now I have a choice to make. Do I want to protect the Feraligatr? I decide to just let it go, because I didn't really play that matchup very well. I can send in the Greedent to go for the Body Slam, and they're -1, so this will very, very comfortably knock out, and it does. They send in Charge-a-Bug, and I am very, very happy to see this Charge-a-Bug here, as of course I have Lurantis in the back, and X-Scissor would be doing quite a lot of damage, so I will commit the shield. They wait the turn to make sure I don't catch, and they're going to fire off the X-Scissor. I do live 2 X-Scissors and the Volt Switches, so typically I'm able to make it to a third Body Slam, but the interesting thing here is I took some wing attacks from the Mantine, so I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to survive now. I really hope I can. The Greedent barely gets knocked out, and it's all up to Lurantis in the endgame. I should be able to shield once and Fury Cutter down, so at the very least, I exit very healthy and with energy, and the opponent has some spice of their own. They have the Shadow Hippowdon, and this game should just be a win. Shadow Hippowdon and Lurantis have identical pacing because Fury Cutter and Sand Attack are clones of each other, and we're both farming up to 35 energy moves. So at this point, I mean, this should just be a win. As long as I just don't massively overfarm and make a misplay. I am going to overfarm slightly because I do want to ensure that I can make a Leaf Blade versus the Charge-a-Bug. So I am going to farm up just to ensure that I'm going to be able to make a Leaf Blade before the second Volt Switch registers. And now they can send in the Charge-a-Bug. Maybe could have farmed down there, but due to the overfarm, we're able to make it to the Leaf Blade, and Leaf Blade will knock out the Charge-a-Bug. And now we're 3-0 in the set. Moving to game number 4, we see a tough lead, leading Shadow Feraligatr into Wigglytuff. Feraligatr does win the Zero Shield here, which is very nice. And unless my opponent wants the double shield, I'll get to land a Shadow Hydro, which makes it very manageable for any of my back Pokemon to deal with. They will commit the shield. I'm farming up. They try for a catch onto a Quagsire, and I'm going to send in Lurantis. Lurantis, more than happy to tank a Stone Edge, but I decide to shield, and I get baited. Oh my goodness, that's such a poor shield. That's absolutely terrible. And then I just miscount. I thought they threw right when they got it, but I miscounted the Mud Shot, so unfortunately they are actually able to land a Stone Edge. So I haven't played this game very well so far, but I do have very favorable alignment, and I have a ton of energy on Lurantis. They can send in Wigglytuff, and as long as I time my charge attacks well, I should make 2 Leaf Blades. So the Leaf Blade is going to connect, and Lurantis is barely able to hang on thanks to the Overfarm versus the Quagsire to make the Leaf Blade and grab the shield. I have the Hydro. They catch the Hydro onto Lantern, and that's going to be a 1 game for me. The opponent able to successfully bait out Lurantis, but I have a secondary counter to Lantern. One of the things that I was very worried about with running the Shadow Feraligatr is of course going to be the Lantern, and that's why I like having double grass coverage in the back. So this way, as my opponent fires out the Thunderbolt, I mean, there's just nothing they can realistically do. Body Slam is going to be able to pick up the knockout. I'm +1 here as well, thanks to that Trailblaze. They have to throw instantly, otherwise they'll get outpaced. And I'm going to shield up the Icy Wind, so my attack is back to normal, but realistically, there is no way that my opponent can win the game at this point. Wigglytuff Double Water is a pretty interesting team, but thankfully, we got a lot of grass coverage, so we're able to take that game. We're looking for the 5-0 set, and we've got a great lead, leading the Shadow Feraligatr into A-Slash. They save switch into Annihilate, and I'm very happy to stay in here and play this out. I'm 1 turn ahead, so I'll always be able to knock them out. They actually no-shield the Hydro Cannon, survive it on 1 HP. I don't want to take the damage on the Feraligatr, so I end up catching onto the Greedent. My opponent is going to send in the Sand Slash. This is a bit unfortunate, as of course they don't have Crunch, so I'm only able to hit for resisted damage with my charge attacks, but the combination of the resisted Body Slams plus the super effective Mud Shots will add up over time. So they are going to be firing off the Drill Run that will connect. Very, very okay. And I'm just going to start spamming out these Body Slams. Let's get some damage on this A-Slash. A-Slash looking to farm. I make another Body Slam as well. This will come very close to knocking out. They have a decision to make. They let it through. They're going to fire off the last second charge attack. From here, I can probably just send in Lurantis and just go for a farm down, but they actually switched themselves. So now I can go for the Body Slam. If they no shield, I can Shadow Claw down with my Feraligatr. If they shield, I can just bring in Lurantis. Opponent does not want to play anymore. They resign the match, and we get our 5-0. Moving to the next set, we see a pretty nice lead, Shadow Feraligatr into Shadow Gligar. I do win charge attack priority. Opponent makes a very nice catch. This complicates things quite a bit, as if I'm down energy, I actually lose to Gligar, so I'm going to rebank the Hydro Cannon, send in the Greedent, my opponent fires off their energy, and they actually give me a Mud Shot for free. That might help me in farming down here. Let's see, can I KO with the Mud Shots? I can! Let's go, Greedent. Greedent leaving with the back-to-back body slams. Gligar does win charge attack priority, and I think I'm going to get knocked out here. It is going to be the Aerial Ace, but Greedent hangs on 1 HP. It's charge attack priority, which means they don't get to move through, so I'm actually going to get both these body slams. The second one will not KO, but it will get them very, very low. They're going to commit the shield, and now I can just click Hydro Cannon. They catch again, opponent catching left and right, doing what they can. But unfortunately, Lurantis is just completely inevitable in this endgame. I can just farm up to 100 energy on Lurantis. I don't have to shield anything, and I'll have a Leaf Blade for the Lantern, and then 2 Leaf Blades for the Gligar. So at this point, this game is over. I farm up just shy of 100. And now I can begin to unleash this energy. Leaf Blade picks up the KO. In comes the Gligar, and I'm already at 2 more Leaf Blades. The speed of Lurantis. This thing really popped off for me today. I really liked how it performed. And now I can just go for Leaf Blade number 2. Down goes Gligar. We get a win, and we get a 2 shield flex as well. Moving to the next match, leading Shadow Feraligatr into Mandibuzz. This is a core breaker. This is not an amazing spot to be in since I don't have Ice Beam. However, straight Hydro Cannon, Shadow Feraligatr can make this very close. Like, look at this damage right here. The Hydro Cannon connects. That does so much damage to that Mandibuzz. I can withstand this charge attack, no problem. Make another Hydro Cannon. And even though I'm not going to be able to win switch advantage here, the important thing is that I'm going to be able to get this low enough to where my backline can handle it. Unfortunately, I don't think they're quite low enough for me to commit to a Fury Cutter farm down, so I'm probably just going to send in the Greedent. Opponent is going to pivot into a Lantern. Pivoting a Lantern is wild because now I get to send in Lurantis, and Lurantis is going to do extremely well here, and I banked a ton of energy on the Greedent for later. Lurantis farming up so much energy, going for the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade not going to be enough to knock out. I haven't done enough damage yet for it to KO, and Fury Cuttering down doesn't really seem like a viable option at the current moment, so I'm just going to look to try and double up. My Lurantis is very, very low. Unfortunately, I don't time it very well, so I do give them a Spark for free. Leaf Blade is going to KO. I'd love to switch out here. In comes the Mandibuzz. The Fury Cutters KO. I have 1 HP and energy, and it's a Whiscash in the back. This meta is so water heavy, and the double grass coverage in the back is paying dividends. The Trailblaze lands. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We see a familiar lead in the next match. Shadow Feraligatr into the Lickitung. Not a good matchup for me, but I'm going to do what I did in that previous game. I played out of a Lickitung lead before and I was able to beat it, so hopefully this will be no different. I try to wait a turn and go for the catch. Unfortunately, my catch attempt is unsuccessful and I am going to be met with Annihilape. Annihilape can survive 2 Trailblazes and the boosted Mud Shots, which is a bit unfortunate. Annihilape, the nice thing here is unless they're running close combat, they can't knock me out here. So they can go for the Night Slash, I can withstand the damage and fire off another Trailblaze. The Trailblaze is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. They're actually going to stop attacking to let themselves get as low as possible, and I'm just not able to get the body slam. I'm thinking that they're probably going to be strong to Lurantis in the back, so I'm basically just going to sacrifice Lurantis and try and win with 2-shield Shadow Feraligatr. Feraligatr can output a lot of damage, so we'll have to see what they have in the back. It's a Talonflame. I'm really, really happy that I was able to basically just throw away the Lurantis, because unfortunately Lurantis can't do anything here. But it's all going to come down to how much stored energy do they have on the Lickitung. I do have a pacing advantage, but they had a lot of stored energy, and the moment they throw this move here, I know this game is over. Unfortunately, I am not going to be able to make 2 more Hydros before they can make the next Body Slam, because a Body Slam occurs every 12 turns. So as soon as they threw the second one, right when they did, I knew the game was over, and as we're going to see, I do get outpaced. Very, very unfortunate. I stayed in, thinking maybe my opponent could overfarm and make a misplay, but they do not, and we get our first loss with the team. Hopping into the final match, leading Shadow Feraligatr into Pelipper. Pelipper, not a Pokemon that I'm super used to playing against this season, so I'm just going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch is going to do quite a lot of damage. Opponent doesn't really have a reason to shield it. The Crunch will connect. We do not get the debuff, and I'm always going to be no-shielding here. I don't think it's very likely they go for the Hurricane. They're just going to go for the double Weather Ball, and I decide, you know what, I'm just going to go for a 1-shield farm down. I'm just going to play for Switch. I'm going to have energy, and Feraligatr's energy is good into a lot of stuff. Not good into a Lantern, but we have 2 very good checks to that in the back. So So I send in the Greedent, and Greedent will fire off the Trailblaze into the Lantern. I would love if the Lantern switched out here, because obviously I would prefer to align it to my Lurantis later in the match. The Trailblaze lands, they return fire with the Thunderbolt, they switch out, and that's a Pokemon I haven't seen in ages. Galarian Stunfisk, back from the dead. This thing got absolutely Shadow Realmed by the buff to Gligar, and honestly, I have not missed seeing the Bear Trap. Having the Bear Trap gone has been a big plus in my book. Unfortunately, not able to make it to another Trailblaze. We'll have to settle for the boosted Body Slam. The Body Slam will connect. That does a lot, though. Oh, my goodness. I can send in the Feraligatr, fire off the Hydro. Hydro gets the shield. They're forced to throw energy, and this is just a one endgame for Lurantis. We got the Pelipper out of the way, and now they are just so weak to Lurantis in this endgame. They can fire off a Rock Slide, but this is going to be doing basically nothing. I can just look to overfarm quite a bit. So the Rock Slide will connect. I keep farming. I'm going to go for the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade will be able to pick up the knockout. Opponent will commit the shield. They send in the Lantern. They realize there is no beating this Lurantis, and they resign the match. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to run this team. And I had very, very good sets with it. Like, I had a ton of fun getting to play the team overall. Shadow Feraligatr, this thing is a beast. Oh my goodness. I really didn't want to use it as a safe switch because let's say you have a negative lead and your opponent has Gligar. If you safe switch a Shadow Feraligatr in, as long as they throw their Aerial Ace before you get the Hydro, they're always going to be one fast attack ahead and you guaranteed lose the twos. So I didn't really feel like safe switching it would end up being a very viable option. So I ended up putting it on the lead and it paid massive dividends. I've tried the regular Feraligatr before, and it just does not compare. It's night and day difference. The damage output from the Shadow is incredible. Like, an ability to come pretty close to two-shotting Lickitung is amazing, whereas the regular is never going to be able to do that. So, overall, I would say, honestly, a solid grade of A for the Shadow Feraligatr. This thing was fun. I'm definitely going to have to use this more. And Lurantis, I really feel like Lurantis put in a ton of work. I mentioned it throughout the shoutcast, but I wanted a grass type that didn't get completely destroyed by Guzzlord. Because with the moveset that I chose, I don't want to just auto-lose to Guzzlord. And for Greedent, I wanted a normal type on the save switch. I wanted it to be able to beat Lantern, and I wanted it to have a lot of just neutral play across the board. So, as well, compared to something like a Lickitung, Greedent does have neutral play into a potential Guzzlord. I didn't end up seeing any Guzzlord, so it didn't really matter. I was just worried about Guzzlord for nothing, basically. But overall, I feel like it's a very well-balanced team. Should work at a variety of elos, and yeah, it worked incredibly well for me overall. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.